Have you ever really thought about what a house is made of? Every piece of stone was cut from a quarry. Every board was a tree. Every pane of glass was sand. Every wire was ore. It doesn't look like much happened to get here. That's the trick. And the family inside it has no idea. They're eating dinner, watching the sun go down. They've never thought about where the glass in their windows came from. Why would they? I want to tell the story of how that house got there. Not the development, not the design, not the framing crew. I mean all of it. Every material in that house traced backward to the moment it was pulled from the earth. And I want to tell it through one man. He doesn't have a name, and that's on purpose. He's going to build a house, but not the way anyone has ever built a house. No suppliers, no vendors, no deliveries, no fabricators, no help. Mostly. Kind of. Not really. He starts with dirt under his feet and nothing else. And I need to make one thing clear before we start. Even after everything the man is about to do, we're skipping most of it. We won't talk about the truck that hauls his lumber. We won't trace the diesel in that truck back to a refinery. We won't follow the steel in the truck's frame to a foundry. We're only following the materials that end up physically inside the house, and even that is going to be staggering. He doesn't start with the foundation. He doesn't start with the blueprint. He starts with fire. Because fire is upstream of everything. No fire, no smelting. No smelting, no metal. No metal, no tools, no tools, no house. The entire thing begins here, in the dirt, with friction and patience. But open flame isn't enough. It's not hot enough to do what he needs. So he learns to make charcoal. He burns wood slowly, starved of oxygen, until it transforms into something that burns hotter and more consistently than the wood it came from. And with that, he can build a furnace. He packs clay and earth into a structure that can contain and focus heat. This is thousands of years of human discovery compressed into days. A house also needs metal. He finds it before he knows what to do with it. Copper, sitting in a stream bed. Pure metal, just lying there. He picks it up and hits it with the stone until it flattens into something useful. But cold hammered copper only gets you so far. It bends. It won't hold an edge. So he crushes the ore, feeds it into the furnace, and watches liquid metal pool at the bottom for the first time. He pours it. He shapes it. Better, but still soft. So he experiments. He finds tin, melts it with the copper, and discovers that together they become something neither one is alone. Bronze. It's harder, stronger, and it holds an edge. But iron demands more heat, more refinement. His first furnace can't do it, so he tears it down and builds a bigger one. Taller walls, a bellows to force air in and push the temperature higher. He has to learn to control carbon content, because iron with too much carbon is brittle, and iron with too little is soft. The space between those two failures is steel. Finding that space took humanity centuries. He only finds it in days. Now he has tools, an axe, a saw, a chisel, a hammer. He can pick his wood. He doesn't just cut down a tree. He selects one. Straight grain, minimal knots, the right species for the right purpose. He already knows the wood for his framing is different from the wood for his floors, which is different from the wood for his cabinets, which is different for the wood for his trim. One material with a dozen end products. He fells the tree. It drops. He bucks the log into lengths. He mills it. He's built a sawmill now, because you can't produce dimensional lumber with a handsaw. He's cutting 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x10s, 2x12s, headers, rim joists, rafters, but he can't use any of it yet. Green lumber warps, twists, cracks, and shrinks. He has to dry it in a kiln he built for this purpose. Controlled temperature, controlled airflow, controlled time. He's pulling the moisture down to a range the wood will hold, because if he frames a house with green lumber, every wall will move as it dries. After kiln drying, he planes it. Smooth faces, consistent dimensions. But he's also making flooring, tongue and groove, precision milled. He's making trim, baseboards, casing, crown mold. He's making cabinets. That's a different discipline entirely. Joinery, finishing, hardware. He tells the woman running the planer that he needs 1/4-inch tolerance on the face width. 1/4 inch is a lot of room. What are you hanging, barn doors? He tells him she can hold a 1/16. She's been running boards through this machine for 14 years, and she knows what the blade can do better than whoever made it. One tree became framing lumber, flooring, trim, cabinets, doors, shelving, and soffits. And the woman who ran the planer has never seen the finished house. She sees the boards, thousands of them every day. She has no idea where they end up. His foundation needs concrete. Concrete is 4 things: Portland cement, aggregate, sand, and water. 3 of those come out of the ground. Portland cement is limestone and clay, crushed and heated to 2,700 degrees in a rotary kiln. A steel cylinder 12 feet across and hundreds of feet long, lined with refractory brick, rotating slowly while a flame hot enough to change the chemistry of the rock turns raw material into calcium silicate powder. He asked the quarry foreman how deep the deposit runs.
We've been pulling from this bench for 6 years and we haven't hit bottom.
He reads a rock face the way an architect reads a floor plan. Bedding planes, fracture patterns, moisture content. He knows where to drill, how deep, how much charge to use. He knows what the rock will do before it does. He's never poured a foundation. The man mixes his concrete. He's calculated the ratio. He's built the forms. He pours, vibrates, screeds, floats, and cures it. His foundation is in the ground. He also quarries stone. The stone gets cut into thin slabs, finished on one face and stacked onto pallets. It will become the veneer on the front of his house. The cutting alone is a trade. The man who operates the diamond saw tells him each blade costs more than most people's cars, and he goes through 4 a year. His house needs steel, structural beams, connectors, fasteners, ductwork, flashing, hardware. Each one starts as iron ore in the ground. He mines it. He smelts it in a blast furnace running on coke, which is coal that's been baked in the same way his charcoal was baked from wood. The iron flows out. He refines it into a steel in a second furnace, controlling the carbon content down to fractions of a percent. Then he rolls it, structural shapes, flat stock, round bar, sheet. Each profile is a different die, a different process. He asks the mill operator how he knows when the steel is ready to roll. By the color.
Cherry is too cool. White is too hot. You want orange. Bright orange.
This man reads his temperature by color because the margin for error is measured in seconds. He has run steel through this mill for 11 years, and he can tell you the carbon content of a billet by watching how it moves through the rollers. He's never heard of a rim joist. Now from the mill, the man becomes a fabricator. He cuts his beams to length. He welds connections. He drills bolt patterns. Then he becomes the framing crew that sets the steel. Then he becomes the guy who makes the nails, and the screws, and the hurricane ties, and the joist hangers. Every fastener in his house is steel, and every one of them pass through the same chain, ore to furnace to mill to fabrication to install. His windows need glass. Glass is sand. Silica, heated to 3,100 degrees until it becomes liquid, then floated across a bath of molten tin to form a perfectly flat sheet. The man who monitors the float bath tells him the tin has to be absolutely pure, because any contamination shows up in the glass as a defect you can see from across the room. After the float, the glass is annealed, slowly cooled in a controlled environment to relieve internal stress. Then, for his windows, it's tempered, heated again and rapidly cooled to make it 4 times stronger and change the way it breaks, so that if it shatters, it crumbles instead of producing shards. He has to temper it because building code requires tempered glass in certain locations, which means he also has to know the building code, which means he's also the building official. Every light switch, every outlet, every circuit in his house is connected by copper wire. That copper probably started in a mine somewhere in the southwest. Open pit. Massive. The ore comes out of the ground with less than 1% copper content. The rest is waste rock. He processes tons of material to get pounds of usable copper. He smelts it, refines it electronically, and then draws it into wire. Drawing is exactly what it sounds like. You pull the copper through progressively smaller dies until it reaches the gauge you need. Then you insulate it. He asks the woman at the wire mill how many miles of wire she produces in a week.
Depends on the gauge, but on a good week, enough wire for a couple hundred houses.
A couple hundred houses from one worker at one facility, and she has no idea which houses. She has no idea which cities. The wire leaves her facility on a truck, and she never sees it again. The clay for his brick and tile have its own chain. The ceramic for his fixtures. The chemicals for his paint, his adhesives, his sealants, his caulk. The petroleum products that become his insulation, his vapor barrier, his roofing membrane. His PVC drain lines, each one has its own extraction, its own processing, its own specialists who have spent entire careers perfecting one step in a chain they've never seen the end of. But we'd be here for hours, so let's build the house. He surveys the lot. He measures stakes and marks the boundary. He bores into the soil and tests what the ground can hold. He sits down and draws every room, every dimension, every decision about how a family will move through the space. He sizes the beams. He calculates dead loads, live loads, snow loads, wind loads. He designs the systems, water in, water out, air moving, power reaching every room. Each one is its own discipline. Each one requires its own set of drawings. He walks into the building department. He submits his plans. He waits. He answers questions. He revises. He waits again, a permit stamp. He excavates, forms the foundation, pours the concrete he made from limestone he quarried, sets anchor bolts from steel he smelted, lays drain tile, waterproofs, backfills. He frames the floors with lumber he milled and dried and planed. He frames the walls, he frames the roof, he sheathes it, he wraps it. He sets the windows he made from sand he melted and floated and tempered. He installs the steel beam he rolled and fabricated. He roughs in plumbing with copper he mined and drew into pipe. He roughs in HVAC with sheet metal he formed from steel he rolled. He insulates, he hangs drywall, he tapes, he muds, he sands. He paints with the paint he mixed from pigments and binders and solvents he produced. He lays the hardwood floors he milled. He installs the trim he shaped. He sets the cabinets he built. He hangs the doors he made. He sets the tile he fired from the clay he dug. He installs fixtures. He connects every system. He tests every circuit. He calls for inspection. Then he walks outside, walks back in wearing an inspector hat and inspects it himself. He grades the yard. He pours a sidewalk. He plants a tree. The house is done. That man doesn't exist. He can't. Not because the work is too hard, but because the knowledge is too wide. He would need to be a geologist, a miner, a metallurgist, a chemist, a kiln operator, a sawmill operator. That's over 40 careers. Most of them take years to learn. Many of them take a lifetime to master. The quarry foreman in Indiana who blasted the limestone has no idea it became the foundation of this house in Denver. The logger in Oregon doesn't know his tree became the kitchen cabinets. The woman at the wire mill has no idea which houses her copper ends up in. The guy at the rolling mill who reads temperature by the color of the glowing steel has never heard of a rim joist. They will never meet each other. They will never see this house. They have no idea they built it together. But they did. Every one of them. And so did hundreds more. We didn't have time to talk about the truck drivers, the warehouse workers, the sales reps, the dispatchers, the project managers, the estimators, the bookkeepers. And every single one of those handoffs from the earth to the house has a margin. The mine charges the smelter charges the mill charges the fabricator charges the distributor charges the vendor charges the subcontractor charges the general contractor charges the homeowner. That house isn't just an assembly of materials, it's an assembly of margins. And by the time a family walks through the front door, the cost of what's in their walls bears almost no resemblance to the cost of pulling it from the ground. The man in this story didn't pay any of those margins. He went straight from the earth to the house, no handoffs, no middlemen. But he also spent decades acquiring knowledge that thousands of people spent entire careers mastering individually. The margins aren't waste, they aren't greed. They're the price of specialization. Every markup in that chain represents someone who got so good at one thing that they never had to learn the rest. The house is where all of the work finally converges, the only place it ever does. So next time you flip the light switch, appreciate the extraordinary journey behind the ordinary moment.